Let us begin this auspicious occasion by seeking Almighty's blessings. Over to Maria and Reshma for the prayer.
सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to everyone gathered here. On behalf of the SEMS family, I welcome each and every one of you to this session of Bodhi Indian Ethos in Management Talk Series. I would like to cordially invite the esteemed guest, Professor Geeta Tripathi, Honorable Director, esteemed faculty members, and dear students to join us for this enlightening session. Professor Geeta Tripathi is an esteemed academician, researcher, and telecom professional with 29 years of international experience spanning the IT and telecom industry, government, and academia. She holds a degree in computer science and engineering from NIT Jalandhar and a postgraduate degree in software systems from BITS Pilani. Her expertise covers a wide range of areas, including 5G, radar systems, artificial intelligence, big data, IoT, and cybersecurity. Throughout her career, she has worked in key R&D labs across Europe, Asia, and USA, collaborated with telecom RD centers in Africa, Middle East, Australia, and China. Her work has contributed to public service delivery improvements through advanced telecom solutions. She has presented research on space debris detection at the International Space Station and R&D conference hosted by NASA and CASES. In India, Professor Tripathi has served as a senior consultant for the Ministry of Electronics and IT, contributing to initiatives under the National Policy of Electronics 2012 and 2019. She has also been a technical director at the Indian Printed Circuit Association. Currently, she is a research fellow at the Asia Vision Institute and actively promotes the initiative AI for Good and aimed at fostering a more human-centered society. Ma'am, we are deeply honored to have you here with us today. On behalf of everyone present, I extend a warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
Without further ado, I request Professor Geeta Tripathi to address the gathering on building ethos in management in the era of technological innovation through Indian poetic wisdom.
So can you all see my screen? Can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. You may start with
All
the
right.
presentation.
And you can also see me.
Ma'am, could you please make it in slideshow view?
Just a moment.
Ma'am, please share the PPT one more time.
Yeah. Now you can see me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
All right. So a very warm welcome to all of you, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, professors and director. I first of all would like to thank you for inviting me for this talk. And being an engineer, I felt that as we are mobilizing in the era of technology innovation, definitely maintaining the ethos is a very big challenge. And the idea behind choosing the topic, building ethos and management in the era of technological innovation, came from the very fact that when we were kids, we all have read couplets of all the poets like Rabindranath Tagore and Kabir and Khusro. And you might have also in your own childhood read all the couplets. So, as you grow in your career and you are professionally navigating to the various complex challenges of modern management, what has been seen is that the Indian poetic wisdom can definitely contribute a lot to the building of the ethos in this challenging time, especially when we are in a situation where the global landscape, the geopolitical landscape is uncertain, and also the economic uncertainties are there. And in general, we all are in a mode of resilience, and especially when we all are also trying to tackle climate change problems. So, how do we keep up our ethos in the management? And remembering the Indian poetic wisdom was the basic objective. So, hopefully, we can have a holistic approach. While our basic ethos is our value system, which we get from our scriptures like Gita, Bible, Bhagavad Gita, and Purans, and Quran also. The poetic wisdom gives us a better interpretation of understanding how to build our value system. So with this, I'll start. So first of all, we'll try to understand the role of ethos in management. Now, in an engineering perspective, when we talk about the role of ethos in management, we should try to look into the industrial revolution in India and how the ethos has evolved over time. Am I audible to all of you? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, okay. So I hope you can see the screen. So this is actually a industrial revolution. It's a global industrial revolution, but we'll also try to understand its impact in India. So when we talk about Industry Revolution 1.0, we are talking about the steam engines. We are talking about in general the industry being set up for various mechanical production. So if you see the year, it started in 1784, and in India we saw the advent of railways in 1853 and textiles in 1854, and the ethos was resilience. And the reason why I say the ethos is resilience, because at that particular time we were under the British colonial rule, and there was a basic struggle of even our traditional textile mills for survival. And what we also saw is that during that time, the resilience was there to even keep up the traditional textile and cottage industry working while the textile industry was also growing. So definitely Indian people showed resilience in those times. Then in Industry 2.0, we can even call it as an era of Fordism, where car manufacturing had started globally. So in India, what we saw in those times was the Tata Steel came into picture, and we had the cotton and textile mills also coming up. So it started giving some kind of employment to people. And that is the time when Gandhiji started the Swadeshi movement. And that actually felt the need to have self-reliance. So this is a very interesting era, Industry 2.0 in the Indian history, and I'm talking about the pre-independence era. Then we can come into the Industry 3.0. This actually started in 1969. So between the Industry 2.0 and Industry 3.0, uh, what we saw is that in post 1947, we developed a public-private model, and we had a 5-year plan for our industry evolution or industry implementation or development. So basically, we started the heavy industries. And in the late 1980s and the early 1990s, we saw the IT technical boom. And the ethos here was innovation. So Industry 3.0 is considered to be a time when electronics, IT system, and automated production had actually started. And now, from the 21st century, we all are living in the era of 4.0. And definitely, India has evolved in the era. In fact, we are also going into the global leadership in this domain, where we have seen telecom boom, we have seen digitalization, we have seen smart manufacturing, we are seeing many startups and unicorns are coming up. We saw the evolution of cloud technology, and India is definitely leading in that, making a huge progress towards that because of the market space it provides. And here, the ethos has been agility. So basically, we have been adaptable and agile in this era. Now, when we talk about a future society, now the future society will be more of a bioeconomic society. So, where you would be seeing more into innovations and the technology moving towards the human AI or the human machine collaboration. We'll be talking more about renewable resources, and we'll be talking more about sustainability. Now, already, if you look at the current trend in India, sustainability is one part of it, and human centered approach, development of that is one part of it. And what you are doing as an exercise here in SCM is related to Indian ethos of management. That is definitely a direction towards a futuristic approach, and definitely renewable energy will be one aspect. So the role of ethos becomes very important as we progress further as a mankind. And the Indian ethos is not only applicable to India but at a global context. So when we are looking at these ethos, we have to look at how we can actually complement the existing global framework on the ethos. So with this, let's go to the next, that is the ethos across cultures. So, when we are talking about the Indian ethos across cultures, we can try to compare it with the other ethos. So, one of the most popular ethos are the Japanese ethos and the Western ethos. So, if we look at the Japanese ethos, they talk of collectivism. Now, what do we mean by collectivism here? Now, collectivism means that whatever we are going to do, it will be done in a group. Even decision making has to be on a consensus from the top to the bottom. Harmony is that you cannot have, you have to respect each other, and you have to respect the differences and work in harmony for a common good. That is also one other aspect of the Japanese ethos. When we talk of kaizen, we are basically talking about the improvement, and we are basically trying to look into the everyday continuous improvement. And when we talk of ikigai, we are talking about the purpose of our life, what brings us happiness, and how we can create through happiness a certain purpose of life that can benefit mankind as a large. And Bushido is about loyalty. Now, when it comes to the Indian ethos, we all know that we are a community oriented society. We definitely believe in family and relationships, and our basic ethics comes from the spiritual practices that comes in the form of our daily prayers, and also on the different types of meditations we all do. And for us, ethics in business is very, very important. I think that's what creates the basic spirit of our country. And we definitely believe in the moral principles and integrity, and that is very important for us. We value words, we value commitment, we value that on honesty, we value people who do good to us, we should do good to them. So these are some of the Indian ethos which is already existing. See, I'm talking about what we already know, okay, and how what is actually existing. So when we talk about the Japanese and the Indian ethos, now what are the common things that we can take if we have to have Japanese and the Indian ethos together? So one is that collectivism and community. I think there are some common points where the Japanese and the Indian ethos can be shared. Then it comes when it comes to integrity and moral practices. Definitely, Japanese ethos and Indian ethos have a similar view over there. Like we talked about Bushido, we talked about Kaizen, And we also talked about purpose driven. So purpose driven means we have our dharma, we have our duties, and ikigai is basically the purpose of our life. What is the purpose of our life that will give us happiness and benefit of society in large, and our resilience. Indians are known to be resilient people, and our resilience and their Kaizen principle of continuous improvement is very similar. So, in these common shared values, already we have seen how the Indian Japanese business success stories are already there. We have an example of Maruti Suzuki, that is one such example. Then we have even the Japanese businesses doing very well in our country. And Indian engineers and Indian professionals are highly regarded in Japan also. Now, when we talk of Western ethos, it talks about individualism. When we talk about individualism, it is more about individual accountability, individual success, individual contribution. And there is nothing wrong in it. I think that's very important, and that really contributes. A person can definitely add value to a complete organization and to a team. Then creativity and innovation is also there in the Western ethos. In fact, most of the new technology trends that the whole world is normally adapting comes from the Western ethos only. And they believe in direct communication. And in some way, we Indians have also developed a confidence of having a direct communication. Now, when it comes to the common shared values, there is something called as frugal innovation. Now, do anyone of you know what is frugal innovation? Have you heard about it? Yes, guys. Have you heard about it? Can I just get a response? Okay, so I'll just try to explain. When we say frugal innovation, we are basically talking of jugaad. Basically, what happens is that we have got scarcity of resources. So within the scarcity of resources, we are able to manage things and develop the things. Like for example, if we see that the roads are if suppose let's say there's a flood, and we have to just cross the roads. So a very basic frugal innovation is that you are putting some stones so that people can step on it and they can cross the river, or they can cross that wherever the water flood is going on. This is some kind of a small frugal innovation. So we do that even in our software programming, we do that in our engineering way of things, and that has become very popular globally, that how in a scarce resource Indians are able to manage. And somewhere down the line, both the Western and the Indian ethos do share a common value over there. And our dharma is our duty, and individual responsibility is what they take as a part of the ethical leadership. And in India, we definitely believe in community growth. And in the Western world, it is more about individual growth. Now, what we say in India is that if an individual is also growing, a community can also grow. So you can see that we have our ethos, existing ethos, and how they actually are going to match with the common shared values of Japanese ethos as well as the Western ethos. So I hope you're able to follow so far whatever I have discussed. Can I get a response, please?
Um,
Shall I go ahead?
Sure, ma'am, sure. You can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So we just talked about industrial revolution and our ethos there. We talked about the ethos across cultures. Now we'll talk about the modern challenges in India. Now, we talked about our Indian ethos having the key characteristic like we are community centered. We follow our karma, our duty. We believe in spiritual practices. We have frugality and innovation, and we have respect for hierarchy, and we believe in karma yoga. Now, when we say karma yoga, it means we believe in our deeds. Now, what are the challenges we will face as a modern management in the future? That is how we are going to balance between the traditions and the agile frameworks. Now, agile frameworks is a recently introduced concept in management. It has been popular for the last 5 6 years, and basically this kind of framework is very popular in the telecom sector. Now, agile framework basically has a very flat structure. You don't have a boss. You do have a manager, but you don't have a boss. And you are having a scrum master who basically will take an update of how much work is left, how much work you have to do, and what are the current issues. It just tries to track that. And as a team, you try to solve a problem. And then you are reviewing your project every sprint. Like in a sprint is a time duration that is given. So now in agile, you don't have fixed deadlines. You have milestones. And in traditional way of our management, we believe in schedules, we believe in deadlines. So somewhere down the line, because when we are working on new technology, like a recent example we just saw, like it took time for me to come for your Zoom meeting because actually my Zoom version was not updated. So, these are uncertain problems that come. So that makes it as an agile framework. So we have to balance between the ethos and the agile frameworks. Then another challenge as an Indian ethos we face is managing diversity. See, we all have a certain culture. We belong to different states. We have our own specific culture. While in India, because most of we are closely connected, we manage with each other. But then managing with other countries, especially about the food, and about the way they do the greeting to each other, about the way they meet the guest, about the way the gift sharing is done, there are a lot of characteristics every culture has. So how are we going to manage that diversity? And adding to it, there's another kind of diversity which is very crucial, and I want to discuss about it because it is a subject of ethos, is about even managing neurodivergent employees. In your organization you might have employees who are dyslexic, who are autistic. We have to also give them equal opportunities and treat them with respect. But to have them in a organization, how do you actually take work out of them? How do you make them collaborate with the team? That is also going to be another challenge. And then the biggest issue is we are living in a competitive world. We would love to have a competitive driven market, but we also have the monopolists. And at the same time, we also have to ensure that if it is a competitive market, we manage our humanism in terms of how do we ensure that an employee's welfare is not compromised. How do we ensure that the stress levels of the employees are managed? How we ensure that people are kind to each other? Basically, establishing humanism is definitely a challenge, especially if, first of all, we're having disruptive technologies. So, when you're having disruptive technologies, you want to catch up fast with the other countries. So, you will see that there'll be a pressure built up from top to down, and we'll be having a little imbalance would be there. So, how do we ensure that humanism is created? When we are dealing with these challenges, something that we can look into our Indian ethos, and already the existing ethos are facing these challenges. First, I'm talking about ethos, and then I'm talking about what are these ethos, how they are facing challenges. So, as I was telling you, that I felt that if we look into some of the poetic wisdoms, we can get some insight into it. So, the idea of how to go about with it is I just chose some five poets. So I chose Amir Khusro, I chose Kabir, and I chose Purandara Das, I chose Subramanyam Bharti and Rabindranath Tagore. So have you all heard about these poets? Have you all heard about these poets? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So Amir Khusro was there as a poet during the Delhi Sultanate period, and Kabir and Purandara Das, they are the poets who existed in between the 15th to the 17th century. And Subramanyam Bharati, he existed during the Indian national movement. He died in 1921, but he was during the period of Indian national movement. And Rabindranath Tagore comes from the great Tagore family, and he was there during the Bengal Renaissance period. In fact, most of you may have also heard about the national anthem Jana Gana Mana, that is actually written by Rabindranath Tagore. So, such is the impact of these poets. And if we look into the life of these poets, it can give a lot of insight to us of how to be resilient and how to actually be more compassionate human beings in the time where competitiveness is very high and economic uncertainty is unpredictable. Now, when we talk about, so I'll again come back to this question. How do we balance the modern management challenges? So these are the challenges I've already mentioned, right? So what we'll try to do here is we'll just take one aspect one by one. So here it is balancing traditions and agile frameworks. Okay, so this is our first challenge. So there is a couplet which I found out. So the couplet says, "Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where the words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country be awake." Now, when we talk about balancing and balancing traditions and agile frameworks, so the idea that we get from this couplet is that we need to have intellectual freedom and we need to have open mindedness. So basically, like, let's say we are a society which believes in hierarchy, but sometimes, your subordinates may be having a little more better idea than you. Or maybe, let's say, if we are having people who come from a patriarchal mindset, maybe a woman has got a better idea than the group of men around. So somewhere down the line, the idea here is to create an open mindedness and have intellectual freedom. So the resolution to balance tradition and agile framework is that we need to create our organizations as free thinking organizations. So we can have our discipline in place. Nobody will compromise on the discipline. But even within the discipline, we need to have free thinking organizations where we can freely share ideas. We can freely share ideas for the betterment of the society. Again, when we talk about ethos, ethos itself means what is a good value system? Something which is our dharma, something which is our karma. So how can we make free thinking organization is one way Rabindranath Tagore gives a solution through his poem. By the way, this couplet comes from his poetry, collection of poetry, Gitanjali. In fact, he had also got the Nobel Prize for that, and he's widely respected in the English literature area. Then the next one comes Kabir. Now, Kabir is very popular in North India. In fact, there are a lot of projects related to Kabir, and Saint Kabir actually was against the dogma of the rituals. He sometimes would contest all the spiritual gurus of the rules that the rituals that they were coming up with. So that is his life. But if you look at his poetry, they really can resonate with our management issues. Like for example, one of his translation, it says that the river is full of water, yet you are thirsty. The world is full of truth, yet you cling to falsehood. So again, this one is balancing traditions and agile framework. The idea here is we must always be seeker of truths. If we go back to our about to our value system, we go to our spiritual practices. We are all seekers of truth. India, for many centuries, has been a seeker of truth, and we believe in genuine experiences. So the idea behind the couplets of Kabir is based on that. And the resolution here is that we need to do critical thinking and we need to have open dialogue. I think inhibition is the first thing we should give up when we are talking of balancing traditions and as agile frameworks. Again, mind you, whether somebody is senior to you or whether somebody is junior to, or whether somebody is of a different neurological background, or whether somebody is of other gender, I think most important aspect here is respect and kindness. And within that framework, we have to allow balancing of traditions and agile frameworks. So this is another way of solving a problem. Now, how do we manage diversity? So so Khusro has one couplet which I have written here. Khusro, rain is falling, all in my land rejoice. Hark the pitter patter of raindrops, it has rained across the entire world. So the idea here is of unity, inclusiveness, celebrating diversity and harmony. So we need to know how to collaborate in diversity. In fact, there are companies in India where I have also personally had experiences where we had a few people who were not good performers, but if you were made to give them some responsibility, and you're made to make them feel equal to the best performers, you would see that they're performing as good as the people who are really performing well. And overall, one could see that how the teams are doing good. So I think managing diversity and people with different capabilities and making them feel important is very, very important. And I think if you are influenced by such poets, see, this is just a choice of poets I have given. Maybe you have your own choice of poets. You can have these questions of ethos, you can look for answers from this poetry, and you can find out an idea and resolution for your organization. So this is just a attempt which I'm trying to do while I'm taking up this discussion with all of you. Then the next step comes innovation. Now, innovation, I again took a couplet from Subramanyam Bharati. So he wrote here that I'll break this world and remake it anew. The chains of slavery, I'll burn them down. So, what does this mean? That you need to be fearless. And what you really need to do is that when you want to be innovative, you should be open to failing. And you have to have creative, progressive structures. So, what you really require is that we need to have teams that can do out of box thinking, and you have to encourage creativity. Mind you, if you really want to develop your right brain, always try to read some poetry or do some painting. In fact, this is my recommendation. If you want to improve your right brain, you want to improve your creativity, definitely go through some poems, poetry, go into music. And if you want to improve your logic, then go into some quiz, do some sudoku, do some logical thinking, and these kind of questionnaires. So you this way you develop both your right and the left brain. And again, I will just try to say the reason why we are dealing with Indian poets wisdom is that the scriptures, our scriptures give us rules, they give us direction, but the poets, they give the interpretation of those value systems. And the poets whom I have mentioned here, they already are meeting to the value system of our very Indian ethos, that is on integrity, moral principles, and handling diversity, respect. So all these aspects, they have been taken care of. Then we can talk about the ethics in a profit driven world. There we have our Purandara Dasa. He is already known as a father of Karnataka music. In fact, his story is very encouraging and inspiring. He was from a rich family, and somehow later on he became a saint, and he tried popularizing through his songs. He popularized social justice. He believed in equality. And I think this is something to even learn from his life. And what his couplet says is that wealth will not follow you after death. It is only your good deeds that accompany you. So when we are talking about ethics in a profit driven world, we can try to get answers from our Carnatic music proses also. So the idea here is action, integrity, and virtue, and to carry out core corporate social responsibility and ethical leadership. So this is what is you can see with our great Indian poets. So now what we'll do next is that after we have discussed some of the poets, let's try to look at some case study from the Indian companies, where we'll try to do the mapping of the Indian ethos. Now, one thing I would like to mention here is that not necessarily that these ethics are or the ethos that we are discussing has been used by the companies, but we can definitely try to map, since we are trying to refer to the poetic wisdom. So let's see how much these companies have been able to incorporate it. Now let's try to look at Tata Group. Now, when we look at Tata Group, it has many businesses, and the core ethos of Tata Group is humility, integrity. They believe in ethical leadership, and Ratan Tata, he talks about having a business, having a profit. He talks about having a purpose over profit. Now, when we have to map the Indian poetic wisdom to the ethos of Tata Group, so definitely they are following the themes of Kabir and Rabindranath Tagore when it comes to humility, comes to ethical leadership and honesty. So Tatas are also carrying out some corporate social responsibility, and definitely they are known for their ethical business practices and leadership. Then another company is Infosys. Infosys is a company which has already done a revolution in the Indian IT industry, and Narayan Murthy is a very inspiring leader. And the core ethos of Infosys is simplicity, integrity, minimalism, and innovation. So when we say minimalism, here we can even talk about having frugal innovations, how we can use a frugal innovation, manage our resources and come up with the best outcomes without compromising on quality. So when it comes to humility and moral integrity, we can say that Infosys has been able to map some of their their ethos with Kabir's emphasis on his wisdom related to humility and moral integrity. And definitely, Infosys has been doing a lot of work on corporate governance and social responsibility, and they continue to do so in whatever projects they are currently carrying out in the country. Then another company is Wipro Group, a very highly respected group, and the group leader here is Azim Premji, and he is known to be a compassionate leader, a leader with integrity, and he believes the core concept of sustainability also. And in fact, they are doing a lot of charity work, foundation work. In fact, they are also involved in the Kabir projects, the Wipro Foundation. They're also trying to revive some of the cultural aspects of Kabir. Kabir is very well known as a, even as a, his poetry are used by many Qawwali singers also. So definitely when you look at Wipro Group, they emphasize on freedom, creativity, and serving society, which comes from Tagore. And also the examples that you can see from Wipro is that they carry out corporate social responsibility and sustainability. And another company I would like to definitely mention is Bharti Airtel Group. Actually, Bharti Airtel Group set the tone for the telecom boom in the country. They believe in innovation. In fact, the frugal innovation comes from Bharti Airtel. Like you can see the missed call alerts and the voicemail system. So with the minimum resources, they produced an outcome that could be used by the people. Then they're very customer centric and they're always resilient. They're always resilient. You'll see that whatever business challenges comes, they're quite resilient. So I think if we try to map Kabir and Khusro's idea of resilience and inner and Tagore's global unity and communication, definitely Bharti Airtel Group stands out. And definitely one example of Bharti Airtel Group is connecting and expanding connections to the remote areas. So this was what I thought of presenting to you today. And we can try to do one small discussion over here. One is kindness versus productivity. Now, the relationship between the co-workers has to be very good, where you're actually caring about each other's point of view. You're ensuring that one person is successful, a good teamwork. Like what happens is that when we are working in a corporate environment, we tend to put the blame on another person. Let's say there is an issue, and normally, let's say we are pointed out with that particular problem. So normally we like to escape that blame and put it on the other person. That may serve good for a small period of time, but ultimately if you blame another person, then you have a long way to go. If you take the blame and you take accountability, it means you are already arrived. So in that case, not only will you be productive, you'll also try to make your other team member productive. Let's say your product has an issue, so accept the problem, debug the problem, solve it. If you can solve it at your end, fine. Then only you talk to the other person. Okay, look, I tried this way. If you work on this way, your product will do well. So this way you are contributing to the other person's product also, and then you're also developing your product. So that is where the integration comes. So kindness definitely leads to productivity. So one last point, and I'll try to give this as a question to you. This is a couplet from Kabir, and I would like you to deliberate on this and please give me your feedback. I went in search of the wicked, but could not find a single one. When I searched within myself, I realized there's no one more wicked than me. So I want you to map this couplet with one of the ethos of Indian management. So, how do you map this? What exactly are you seeing from this couplet? How do you think that this can help the challenges of modern management? I would like you to, sit amongst yourselves and discuss about this. And please share your views to me. Yeah, yeah. Can anybody please confirm what did you find from this couplet? Can you map and discuss?
Ma'am, we are waiting for the response from them.
Okay, okay.
You can introduce yourself, Mahadevan. Oh, ma'am, can we hear from you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Ma'am, it's actually a search within ourselves. It's all about self awareness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how do you think your self awareness can help the organization?
Ma'am, could you please repeat the question?
The question is, how do you think the self-awareness can help an organization? Your self-awareness can help an organization.
Anyone has got an answer for that? How does self-awareness help within an organization? You want to say something? Please. Ma'am, I believe they are a bit reluctant to answer this.
Uh, no, you shouldn't be reluctant. I
Have an
just
answer?
talked
Okay, okay.
about
Just a moment,
almost.
ma'am. Just a moment.
Yeah, I think you should just relax. You need not fear anything, like you should be, anything is possible. See, I had to come at 10 o'clock for your meeting, but I had a technical problem. We solved it. We came inside and we discussed. All the points I wanted to present, I have discussed. So you have to don't be afraid of failing or afraid of any opinion. Just speak what you have.
Ma'am,
If it
pass
has
on the
any
mic.
problem, be told.
Yes, ma'am.
You'll be
Yeah.
told. You'll be told if there is any problem.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, self-awareness is need for the sustainability of a person and an organization.
Okay. But I have a question here. Let's say that you have a colleague who's neurodivergent, When I say neurodivergent, his pace of picking up is slow, and at the same time, he has got little autistic tendencies. Now, how do you help that person to have self-awareness? There's a lot of reports even coming in the McKinsey about neurodivergent employees. So, at that perspective, how does this self-awareness work?
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Leander.
Yeah, yeah.
So after reading this, I think then rather than looking outside, uh, human beings are the source of everything. Like from our heart comes lies, envy. So
Yes.
what he's trying to say, the wickedness he has found within himself, which is spread everywhere.
Well, it's okay to be envious because I'll tell you, jealousy, if it is taken constructively or being envious is taken constructively, you don't damage the other person. Rather, you feel that, oh, you're inspired by the other person that he or she is doing better than you. So, this is something I have to develop in myself and I have to grow. And there's a certain level at which, you also need to know where are your limits. If you know your limits, you exactly know what are your goals. So my question comes here is that if you're having a neurodivergent colleague, because these days the kind of issues which we are seeing, we are having people having blood pressure at a very young age. We are seeing people having diabetes, and diabetes has its own the symptoms like people get fatigued. Sometimes we're even having people who are autistic, and as you are seeing in these days, the autism is on the rise. So future employees, we do not know what kind of the diversity of employees we are going to have. So how does this couplet help? Like, what does it say? That I went in search of a wicket but could not find a single one. When I searched within myself, I realized there's no one more wicked than me. So what does this mean? And I talked of a weak colleague also. So, since you are aware of yourself, would you be helping that colleague with you? Would you be giving him the same kind of support that you would be giving yourself for that colleague to also grow?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now sometimes what happens is like when we look at each other, we like to demean each other. That's how we stand out in a corporate world and we look smart over there. But what about talking about the problem and how you solved it? And the other person knew his limitation, accepted it, and said, okay, and he gave an idea. If I tried this way, it would have worked this way. So this is what the holistic approach. You get a holistic approach when you actually read poems. I'll just not say leave your course books and start reading poems, but do find some references, like, even amongst your friends, we always do Antakshari. And you know what a Antakshari is? You sing songs, right? You, with one letter, you all sit in a group and you start with one letter and you start singing a song, and the song ends with a letter, the other person picks up the song, right? And what are these songs? These songs are based on poetry, and the poetry has a certain philosophy, certain idea. So, in terms of management perspective, a lot of things you can find from there. Though I'm just not talking of the scriptures. Scriptures are always there. We should always fall back to our scriptures. But this gives a better interpretation, isn't it? I mean, it is more relevant. We can relate with it, because it becomes a bit heavy when you go into the real scriptures and you read in detail. You really need a lot of study and depth over there. So this is more relatable. It's more like a common man thing, right? So that's why I thought we should definitely talk about poem. And self-awareness is a very, very important aspect, just not for ourselves, but even for community at large. Any other points? Anybody else has to say anything? Any questions? Any more questions? Hesitation should be the last thing in my class. You should be totally free and ask me whatever you want. Even if something you feel that is not gone in line with you, please tell me that. I'll definitely try to explain.
No, ma'am.
All right. So, any more questions? Any questions?
Ma'am, there are no questions.
Really? I mean, I hope you could relate the topics. How many yeses and how many nos? Could you relate the topic of what we discussed today with management ethos?
Ma'am, we could relate to the topic.
All right, good, good. I'm glad if you do it. Otherwise, if you have any questions, any inputs you would like to give, definitely please let me know. And whatever way I can be of any help and share more information, I'll definitely give it. And these slides, if you want, I'll definitely be handing it over to your institution, so it will be there for your reference. So with this, what I would like to do is now conclude. So, what we can conclude here is that it's very important that we move to a futuristic world. Now, if you look at artificial intelligence, or you look at the storage technology or the cloud technology that we all are building right now, it definitely keeps a lot of historical information. So when we are even looking at the historical information, and we're looking at even our value systems or even maybe some of the rituals, just look at it, that whether it is really good for the society, and that does it really balance with the modernity. And when we talk of modernity, it is very clear that we want to build up a human centered and a more human centered society, where human and machines would collaborate and work, and we are going to work more towards sustainability and renewable energy. So definitely, when we talk about our ethos, and when we are referring to the ethos of the poets, we should look into how we can balance the tradition and the modernity. And definitely there, we these poets whom I have mentioned in this session, Kabir, Subramanya Bharati, Rabindranath Tagore, they and Khusro, they definitely bring that kind of balance. Then kindness and resilience is another thing that you get from the Indian poet's wisdom. Kindness plays a very big role, and resilience is extremely important. Like if you look at the life of Kabir, Khusro, or Purandara Das, or even Subramanyam Bharati, you will see a story of resilience in their lives. And diversity is something which Purendra Das and Amir Khusro both have celebrated. So definitely collaboration is the key here. And main aspect of Indian ethos is that we believe in humanism and hard work. One is, of course, we have to be purpose driven. Of course, we have to be individualistic. Of course, we have to also ensure that we have to be community based. But most important is that we do not give up working hard, and we have a humanistic approach. So, with this, I conclude my sessions, and I would just like to end it by Rabindranath Tagore's statement that let your life lightly dance on the edges of time like dew on the tip of a leaf. So, with this, I come to an end of my session. So, that's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, for the wonderful session. So I'm here for the vote of thanks. Honorable guest, respected director, faculty members, and my dear friends. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of SEMS, I extend a very hearty thank you to Professor Geeta Tripathi for the enlightening address on Indian ethos and management. We are sincerely grateful to you, ma'am, for exposing us to your vast knowledge on the importance of having a right attitude towards modern management, the challenges, role of poets in building ethos. Ma'am, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your valuable thoughts and experiences. I would like to extend our gratitude to the SEMS management and faculty members for giving us the opportunity to interact with such an eminent personality. Thanks are also due to the support staff for ensuring the smooth conduct of the program. Last but not least, I would like to thank the students for their active participation. You have been a wonderful audience. Thank you all once again and have a good day. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, students. All the best.
Professor Geeta, ma'am,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining with us, ma'am, today.
Yeah. Pleasure for me too. Nice
Yeah.
meeting your students also. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, ma'am. I'll get back to you, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.